Hi, Steve Mills here, and welcome to my results podcast. It's great to be back sharing with you some more tried, tested and proven ideas. Today we're going to talk about client retention. This is a real key, I think, to the success of any business, unless you've got like a one-shot business where somebody buys something, it lasts their lifetime, you have no other products, and therefore when a client buys from you, basically that's it. And if you've got one of those sort of businesses, I'd strongly recommend you start to think about how you could adapt that to get new products in there, or perhaps some way of getting customers to come back more often. Now, I just wanted to talk to you before that about why it's so important. And it's really important because, do you know what? You pay enough money and put in enough time and effort to get the customer in the start with, to get them, to win them to start with, that you really owe it to yourself to make sure that you keep them. And that for me, I think is ultimately the most important thing. If you're winning new clients on a regular basis and then losing new clients on a regular basis, you're not really going to move your business forward. Can you just imagine if you'd never ever lost a client? If I'd never lost a client, I've been doing this for 25 years now. If I'd just constantly built up and built up and built up, my business would have been worth millions upon millions of pounds without any shadow of a doubt. And, as a consultant, trainer, advisor, you can't probably expect to keep a client for 25 years. And, all consultancy projects do come to an end at some point. And, so that's probably realistic. But I at the same time, I do believe we need to think about how we can keep clients. So the question is really, how can you do that? Well, one of the keys, I think, is making sure that the client has a full and in-depth understanding of exactly what it is you do. I hear so often clients and prospects of mine saying to me, "Oh, I didn't realise you do that." We had a great example of one who came on my LinkedIn workshop, said how great it was. We got on fantastically well on the day. When I called them up in a few weeks to see how they were doing, they said, "Oh yeah, it's going really well, Steve. In fact, we've just commissioned a company to produce a new website for us." And I said, "Oh, we could have done that for you." And do you know what he said? "Oh, do you know, Steve, if I'd have known you could have done it, I'd have definitely got you to do so. I didn't know you did that sort of thing." Now, if you look at that, whose fault it is? It's 100% my fault for not making him aware of everything that I did. He positioned me as the LinkedIn guy. He thought I did LinkedIn. Now, perhaps he thought I did other things as well, but he clearly didn't think that we did websites. And so, that I think is really important, to have some sort of program in your business to keep your clients and prospects fully aware of each and every product and service that you provide, so that they can maybe buy from you again and again and again. So that's one tip. Another tip would be to create an ongoing program. So let's say you do landscape gardening. You come along and you'll redo someone's garden. So what could you do for that person on an ongoing basis? If you're a solicitor and you deal with corporate, business type work, and, you think to yourself, right, okay, how could we create an ongoing program? Could you create, perhaps a monthly fee, a retainer, where somebody pays you so much per month, and for that you do certain amounts of things, but, every so often they do a full legal review of your business, let's say. and make sure you're all up to date and you've got all your contracts and everything's in place and so on and so forth. And rather than being hit with a one-off fee for that, perhaps I pay you a monthly fee, and so I spread my costs out, and you get money coming in guaranteed every month, whether you do anything for me or not. So, it's just a matter of thinking, I think, outside the box. And the third thing I wanted to talk to you about is the adding value. Now, that could be anything from, taking people on a corporate event, perhaps buying them something. One of the things that we do is we buy books for people and give them away, because we're all about trying to help them learn. Not necessarily, my books, but, other people's books as well. I'm often giving away copies of the E-Myth and Influence, The Power of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini, and so on and so forth. So, these things are all good for building relationships. So you might want to think about, what could you do? Take somebody on that client journey. When they arrive in your car park, if you're based in an office, what's the perception of the car park? Could that car park be improved? Could you put a little sign in the car park that says reserved for Steve Mills, or the customer's name, so that rather than having to park somewhere at the opposite side, they've got a place reserved. One of the guys that I learned a lot of my marketing from is a real sort of one of the world's leading marketers, a guy called Frank Kern. What Frank does, I think, is brilliant, is when he has a meeting with a client, he doesn't go to the client's office, but also he doesn't expect the client to come for him. Rather than that, he sends a car to pick his client up. Now, not only that, but he sends a Rolls Royce, which he owns, his Rolls Royce. He has his own driver, and he sends the car to pick the client or the prospect up. How cool is that? Now, okay, you may say, well, that's all right for Frank Kern, because he's probably a multi-millionaire, high-flying, business guy, and yes, he is. But think of your version of that. It doesn't have to be a Rolls Royce. It could be just a box of chocolates, just to say thank you. My point being, how could you do something that none of your competitors do in order to create that wow effect? Wowing your client, I think, is a real key. And it's something that so many businesses don't do. So what could you do? We could look at the car park. We could look at the entrance. We could look at the greeting. We could look at the meeting. We could look at what happens after the meeting. I always remember walking into K&H Accountants, and as I walked up the stairs, there was a big sign, and that sign read, "Welcome, Steve Mills." Now, all they did is write my name on a board. And do you know what? That's the only time that's happened in over 25 years in business. And I thought that was brilliant. I was met by a lady called Bernadette. Bernadette said, "Who are you here to see?" And I said, "I'm here to see Bob Harper, Bernadette." I didn't say Bernadette. I didn't know her name at the time. But I said, "I'm here to see Bob Harper." She said, "Right, I'll let him know you're here. Would you like a tea or coffee?" I said, "Coffee, please." And she said, "Here you are. Here's our menu." And this is back before the Starbucks days, when we all had like 48 different types of coffee. Generally back then you were offered black or white, which do you want, and do you want sugar? But this was a proper produced menu of different types of coffee that you could choose from. And at the bottom there was a lovely little sign, a few words, and it said, "We hope you like our selection of coffee. If you think we take a lot of care over your coffee, can you imagine how much care we take over your accounts? And they were an accountancy firm. I thought that was magical, absolutely brilliant. What a great example of doing something really simple that just impressed the heck out of me. My first impression of that organisation was just like none I've ever experienced before. And it's not difficult to do. It's just a matter of, what are you going to do? If you're a roofer, could you send, when somebody, as perhaps you've done the work for that person, could you send them a thank you card? Could you send them a birthday card? Could you send them something, a little gift to thank them for their business? Do what others won't. Because what you're really trying to do is to move away from satisfied customers. You don't want satisfied customers. What you want is raving fans, people who think you're brilliant, would recommend you, would only buy from you, and would come back again and again and again. Just think of it from a point of view of how much is a customer worth to you. If a customer on average, let's say, spends £500 with you, and they buy from you perhaps once every 6 months, and on average they stay with you 5 years, you can quickly work out that when you get a new customer, over the lifetime of the customer, in other words, the lifetime value of the customer is £5,000. And once you know that, you really know how much you can afford to spend in order to keep that customer or to get that customer in the first place. So that's a really important number for you to consider. So that's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to, if you're not already following my podcast and subscribe, then I strongly recommend you do that. You might also want to subscribe to my YouTube channel. So if you check me out on YouTube, it's Steve Mills. If you type in Steve Mills Marketing, you'll find me. There's a lot of Steve Millses in the world, so type in Steve Mills Marketing. If you need any help on the done-for-you side of your business, so you need somebody to do your marketing for you, then go to crofton.co.uk. That's Crofton with an E-N on the end of it. If you want any advice, any training, if you want access to our online training, or if you'd like to book a meeting or attend one of our results webinars, then go to stevemills.co. That's .co. Thanks very much for listening, and I look forward to speaking to you again on my next podcast. Thank you.